Bridgestone tyres that he uses in New Zealand and here in Australia as well, because the relationship between tyres and the chassis is all important in kart racing. He's built this thing to be very narrow in the waist, to be able to put more pressure on the tyres, to keep the front end down and to stop it washing out in the slower corners. And he's delighted with the way it's working. But while the chassis is working well, the engine isn't his. He's actually borrowed it from a fellow competitor in New Zealand. In a recent series, he was being knocked off by his fellow competitor, Warren Vining, and was so impressed with the engine that he said, hey, listen, can I borrow it for the Castrol Kart 3 in Australia?
Not surprising that Ray Hart is quick in this area, because the Yamaha class, very similar to this, is the premier class over there. Panel beater by trade, but a kart competitor for 15 years. He didn't start till he was 20 years of age.
Kerry Moore in second position, also in a Kiwi kart, doing well to cling to the back of Ray Hart. Explain, the Clubman class is based on Yamaha engines, the KT100S engine, the piston port engine. They put out about 15 brake horsepower compared to the 20 brake horsepower karts we'll see in the international class later this afternoon.
In fact, Hart has just lapped international motorcycle rider Wayne Gardner. He's driving kart number 81, just been lapped by them, had trouble in an earlier heat. This is absolutely his first day of racing karts. There he was in the blue leathers, in that pair of karts that went before that group. He's just going up to the bridge there, being lapped now by the second place kart. Gardner decided only about a week ago that he'd like to go kart racing, thought it would develop his skills for an ultimate ambition of going car racing later. He's been going very well today. Finished 6th in one heat, but he was punched off in one, so he started well down in this one, 25th grid position, and has had further problems during this race. And of course he has to be very, very careful as to what he does to ensure that he remains fit for his motorcycle career, which includes a weekend after this meeting, but prior to you watching this telecast, a superbike race in Japan.
1.65 seconds now separates Ray Hart from Kerry Moore. And that's a lifetime in kart racing, because these karts are usually so close to each other. But that's the way that Hart's attacked this weekend. In fact, in establishing his pole position time, he was almost half a second faster than Gavin Field, a fellow New Zealand driver again in the Techno car. And half a second from pole to second position is really quite incredible.
In fact, one of the Yamaha engines for this class of kart, around $600, and then of course all competitors are racing on the same tyre, Goodstone, Bridgestone YAK compound tyres. So drivers in that sense are very equal. The other advantage of karting is that there is an all-up minimum weight for each particular class, which is driver and vehicle, so that a light person doesn't have an advantage as he does on motorbikes and most forms of car racing. And for Clubman, it's 130 kilos with a machine that delivers probably around 15 brake horsepower.
That's our race leader, Ray Hart. Hart looks behind him and all he sees is daylight. coming up for a big afternoon, however, because he's also competing in the international class, where he's been having his difficulties. He was T-boned by a competitor in the prologue earlier today, and it broke his disc brake on his international class of kart, and that's created immense difficulties for him. In fact, he parked this kart in the pits, this one we're watching now, and has been working furiously on his international class kart all day. So again, it's a tribute to just how well he's put this vehicle together, that it's taken almost minimal preparation today.
Just easing his fingers, giving you an idea of how hard it is physically. Gavin Field in 9th, 3rd place. And just down the straight there, very sensible, very relaxed driver, obviously. Just relaxing and easing his fingers, then gripping the wheel so hard. Big wraparound seats because there's no belts holding the drivers in. And so the only thing they have to keep them in position under incredible cornering forces is pushing themselves back into the very light fiberglass wraparound seat. Left foot's always on the brake, right foot's always on the throttle, and I mean nearly always. It very rarely lifts off at all. Sometimes the braking is just left foot against the throttle. The slower corners, of course, they do lift off the throttle. Fixed gears, they have to be lifted in the air and then dropped on the ground when the runner lifting it's got a bit of pace, because there's no freewheeling or gears or clutch.
That's Des Fleet, another New Zealander, coming up to challenge Kart 9, Gavin Field. If you occasionally see cars in the background, you should be aware that Oran Park has 2 circuits capable of operating independently, and there's a club lap dash on today, so occasionally you'll see a race car come into shot as well. Fleet now, giving some curry to Field. Strong New Zealand contingent over in Australia for this Premier kart race. Fleet now has got the inside running, but he can't do it. Field slams across in front of him, and that's really shutting the gate through there. Field takes the classic blocking line. Fleet is capable of throwing his kart wide to get up much more speed, but then loses it all in that left-hand corner because he has to brake to the pace of the vehicle in front of him, so it's of almost no advantage to take a faster lane into the corner. There's an altercation between 2 karts, one of them kart 25, John Dark, who probably is, and having lost his opportunity in this clubman event. And the competitor slightly injured on the other side of the track, but it's very, very difficult to hurt yourself in kart racing. We come back to the dice for 3rd position between kart 9, Gavin Field, and kart 6, Des Fleet.
Further back in the field is a 9-times Australian champion, John Pizarro. He's in 66 and about 9th position at the moment. John's been having a little bit of a problem. Drove very well recently in Hong Kong.
Oh, and look at Fleet across the top there. Is Field holding him up or what? Fleet just wants to get through. Fleet driving a thing called a hutless, which is not a New Zealand way of saying he's not wearing his bash hat. Although it could be.
Actually, it's originally a Swiss brand called Swiss Hutless. There's Pizarro. But now being made locally, a guy called David Craig. This is John Pizarro. Won't admit his age, probably mid-40s. Been karting for more than 20 years. Comes from Parkes, has a kart shop there, and a fierce competitor, and a very, very successful one.
Pizarro has
in behind him, David Lawton.
Pizarro has a small surprise for us coming up later in the day, where through the magic of television we'll take you for a ride in one of these karts at high speed, but more of that later.
Pizarro, in fact, like a number of karters, Drew Price notably, who makes DPE karts and is now, of course, a works driver with Toyota, is in his own kart, a sprinter kart.
Pizarro describes himself as a farmer and kart manufacturer.
Born near here at
Parks, it's only just up the road.
No, he's born in fact, just on the western suburbs edge of Sydney, near Cabramatta. There's Wayne Gardner trying to choke the carburetor, i.e. reduce the airflow, richen the mixture, by covering the air intake, the air filter with his hand. Starting to learn some of the tricks of the trade, Gardner. Not looking at his best in this race. He's been hit twice by other drivers, including once where he reckoned he was given a really hard time. Punched off the track and rather worried about hurting himself, not because he's afraid of being hurt per se, but because he recognises an enormous responsibility of Honda, with whom he's contracted. Revealed today, Wayne Gardner, that he would very, very much like a drive in this year's James Hardy 1000. And as one other motorcycle ace seems to be headed that way, Graeme Crosby having his first run in Australia in a car this weekend, the Holden Commodore he just bought from Ray Smith in New Zealand, he was sharing with Denny Holmes. Well then, perhaps Gardner could get together with somebody such as that. There he is, back in the field. Gardner's number flapping about. Wollongong Kart Centre looking after it for him. Putting it back in the shed. Perhaps one more outing before the motorcycle season starts, and then later in the year he'll be back into it again.
And starting a new fashion trend today by wearing skid pads on his knees. Unusual for a karter, but nonetheless it could come in handy.
They were the Surfers Highsider leathers, actually.
4 laps remaining, in fact 3 laps remaining in this Yamaha Challenge Clubman race. And there's the leader, Ray Hart, who looks destined to be a flag-to-flag finisher, because he's some 4.7 seconds in front of Kerry Moore in second position, and that is like 20 laps in a car race. So to Ray Hart, a great run. 2 laps now to go for Ray Hart. And what a great way to debut a new kart, this Kiwi kart. And that should mean a few sales for Ray Hart when he gets back to New Zealand, if in fact he doesn't sell this before he goes.
That's a fairly equivalent debut, I suspect, to New Zealand's America's Cup yacht. About as unheralded when it got here, with about as much development behind it, but coming out straight away as a winning machine. Coming around to complete lap 24. Out now on his final, the 36-year-old, tall, lanky, bespectacled New Zealander, Ray Hart.
Just 1 corner remaining for Ray Hart now, and he comes up to get the checkered flag and win the Yamaha Challenge Clubman race over 25 laps at Oran Park. Second place goes to Kart 4, Kerry Moore. And then this race now coming up for third position will be resolved, I think, in favour of Kart 9. That's Gavin Field from Des Fleet, Kart 6.
That is a very long and tiring race in the kart, nearly 16 minutes, 15 minutes 51.12 seconds, and averaging 86 kilometres an hour around an 863 metre circuit. That really is flying. So the official result of the Yamaha Challenge Clubman class final over 25 laps, number 3 Ray Hart from number 4 Kerry Moore, both of them New Zealanders, both of them in Demon X karts, and in third place in 9, Gavin Field in a Techno.
A delighted winner of the Yamaha Challenge is Ray Hart. Ray, congratulations. It's difficult to think of anyone who's actually won on a debut of a new machine. You must be very pleased.
Yes, we are very pleased. Kiwi Kart has just finished for this series, and we're delighted in the way it's handling.
That seemed to me to be a race that was almost a cakewalk for you. Had you expected greater competition?
I was very weary at the start because last year in the opening laps when my tyres were cold, Russell Becker slipped by and it made it very awkward. Kerry Moore was also driving the same chassis as me, and I knew he would start the race as well as what I did, so we are delighted with, you know, the way it's going.
Well, your big challenge this afternoon, of course, is in the International, and you've had a few problems. Yes,
from where we're starting, there'll have to be a whole lot of people drop out before I'm going to do any good.
Well, you're back on what starting position?
Grid 24.
Well, you can wave to them as they go by, I guess.
I hope not.
This kart is typical of those racing here today, but the driver is someone special. Winner of the Swan Insurance Motorcycle Series, Wayne Gardner. What brings you to Oran Park?
Hi, John. Basically just a fun day. I'm soon off to Europe, and I thought I'd better get a bit of eye-to-hand coordination and sort of get myself set up for the year coming. And what a better way, and really what a safe way, than starting off in little 100cc go-karts.
Well, it's a different technology entirely. Could you talk us through it?
Yes, well, as you can see, it hasn't got 2 wheels, it's got 4, and they're much wider. Well, no, probably about the width of my 500 tyres. But it's only 100cc, and it hasn't got quite as much horsepower. In fact, quite a lot. I think it's got 20 horsepower compared to my bike with 150, so there's quite a bit of difference there. But it doesn't brake as hard because it's only got 1 disc on the rear and no front brakes. So really the thing about them is that they corner so much harder and faster than the bikes, but they don't accelerate or brake as hard. So it's basically just a good experience, and I was just lucky to actually got this drive and have a bit of fun.
Organisers have scored a coup by securing the services of 4-time world champion Mike Wilson. Mike, how does the Australian competition and the track suit you?
Well, I think the track's very, it's a very nice circuit to drive on, because we don't get circuits like this in Europe. And I think for sure if it was in Europe, it would be a very popular circuit. As for the Australian competitors, I think this year is one of it's the second time I've been to Australia, and I've seen a very much bigger difference before 2 years ago that I was here. They're much more competitive, definitely.
Let's have a look at this track again. The hills are unusual for you.
Yeah, unusual, but it's very nice to drive on, as I said before. Yeah, it's a difficult circuit, especially up at the top there, because you know it's very easy to make a mistake, and you can easily lose 2 or 3 tenths just in the top corner coming down the hill. You know, which is probably put a lot of European drivers in difficulty.
It's a capacity 32 kart field lined up now for the start of the Junior International Final, to be held over 15 laps. And that's drivers 11 to 17 years of age who get the green, and they're away. And as you can see, it's very busy indeed with these keen young drivers. A number of them coming out of the rookie class that will take them through from 7 years of age to 11 years of age. Being led at this stage by the fastest qualifier, the man with most points from the heats, Brendan Richards, on number 2.
Richards is a 15-year-old from Melbourne. Goes to Peninsula Grammar. He's here with his doctor father, so they can afford to pay the bills.
Michael Ritter was second fastest qualifier, number 7. The older of Graeme Tubby, and he's in 3rd place at the moment. Graeme, or Tubby Ritter as he's known, from Victoria. Michael's 13, his brother Greg is younger. And in fact, Michael raced karts for the first time on his 7th birthday.
Jerry
14
Brooks.
years he is now.
Jerry Brooks, the 15-year-old from the Gold Coast, is in 2nd position. But just look at the way Brendan Richards is flinging this kart about. He's been racing for 3.5 years. He first went to the karts with his dad, Dr. Mel.
Greg Ritter, number 8. Obviously, Michael's younger brother started from 6th grid position. There's quite a surprising number of... There he is. There's young Greg, very small lad, which his father isn't, and I don't think ever was. He's short, he's lightly built, and nowhere near as committed to it as his older brother, perhaps with a little bit more natural ability.
Oh, and there's 2 karts well and truly out of it. Stephen Bolden was in kart 5. He's the younger brother, of course, of Ron Bolden, the former Australian motorcycle champion.
And will be very disappointed indeed. Stephen, 16 years of age, very keen on karts, going very well. Now had non-finishes in his last 2 races at this meeting. Up over the bridge. Handy lead being reduced, though, as they come down Yamaha Hill. But it's still Brendan Richards from
Jerry Brooks with kart 7. Michael Ritter in 3rd position.
19, Mark Peterson. Dick Johnson's son, Stephen, is doing this sort of thing now, in this sort of class. Not here today, but Dick's given him a budget for the year. He said $700, son. That's it. You organise it yourself. When you run out of that, you run out of racing for the year. If you can get some sponsors, you can go for longer. So he's gone out and he's got free tyres, all sorts of things. Dick does his engines, charges him for parts and so on. And, of course, Dick runs karts himself to keep his reflexes up for touring car racing.
Oh, here's the go from Ritter down the inside, but Brooks has him held. And what an exciting young driver this Brendan Richards is. Look at the way he flings the kart about. Not scared to get it up on 2 wheels.
And that comes under the heading of overdriving. Very ragged there. Closing on the Mark Peterson, the tail end of that.
He'll probably mature by the time he hits 16, though, Will. There's no problem.
This is the point, that these young kids, under the safest possible circumstances and supervision and with immediate attention available, are learning driving skills. And I'm sure that by the time they hit the road, they have no need to go out and be smart and try and prove themselves. And I reckon they're going to be very safe young drivers. Graeme Ritter was saying his sons look at other drivers on the road driving too fast in the rain, overtaking badly, and say, look at that, he's a fool, he couldn't stop or whatever. They're already developing road sense, which they wouldn't otherwise be developing till they were 17, driving a ton of motor cars.
Current Australian title holder, Peter Rowbotham, he is back in the field, but certainly not up challenging for the lead. The Australian titles to be held in late March in Geelong, and that's a meeting worth going to if you have the opportunity in Victoria. Oh, and there goes kart 19, Mark Peterson taking the shortcut.
Stephen Bolden, incidentally, 9th when he went out in lap 2.
Currently half distance, 8 laps remaining. Brendan Richards, a really nice style of young bloke, said to me before the start, I'm going to win this one. I thought, oh yeah, cocky young fella. I might have to eat my words at the presentation.
We all want to be around to see that.
Yeah.
Fairly much unchanged at the front of the field. The top 3 very close together. The next 4 very tight too, and equally strong dice.
Richards having the opportunity, with just that slight gap that he's got over Brooks in 2nd place, to be able to take the right line into corners, while Brooks is having to cover his corners in kart 7, Michael Ritter.
And in fact, leading the next bunch of 4 is Greg Ritter, number 8, from number 16. Patrick Parry, 27 and 19. 27, Warren Nelson. And 19, Mark Peterson, fallen out of the lead bunch. There he is, in this bunch, and this is being led by another of the Ritter family. A lovely bloke, Graeme Ritter, the father, and 2 talented young guys that he says it's just a lovely family sport. He said, we don't take holidays, we come to kart meetings, wife, kids, me, and we have a lovely, relaxed time. Bridgestone Tyre Chief says it's the friendliest, nicest section of motorsport. There's Greg Ritter, 13 years of age, 6 years in international juniors. It was he that had his first race the day he turned 7. can see how small he is, but look how he can drive. He reckons he had more accidents and more injuries in 3 months on mini bikes than he's had in 6 years in karts.
And I'll tell you what, he's starting to haul in those leading 3 competitors, but with only 3 laps remaining, it won't be enough time.
Building up his neck muscles just hanging onto the safety helmet.
The guy he's got in front of him is, of course, his brother Michael. That's the gap between them, Michael there, and young Greg behind him. I reckon that's the carrot that's pulling young Greg in. 2 laps to go now as they cross the start-finish line.
Brendan Richards, the leader from, as you can see, number 3, Jerry Brooks. Untidy a touch there, but Michael Ritter still in 3rd place, and Greg Ritter's 4th.
Brooks closing right in now on Richards, and this is where the challenge will come.
Look at Greg get up with them. Very well done.
Oh, and there's Brooks has moved to the outside, and he might be in a bit of trouble down here. No, Ritter's
it's a tight section of circuit down there, so close they get to each other.
1 lap remaining now. Great stuff, this. Twice Victorian champion Brendan Richards tenuously clinging to the lead from Jerry Brooks from Queensland. Michael Ritter behind him.
Chris Huttle's doing very well here, leading the race. Also, Greg Ritter's machine, number 8.
Oh, Brooks sideways across the top of the bridge. That's a brave thing to do. And now onto the straight. And Brooks can't make it go any faster, no matter how much he tries, but he takes 2nd place behind Brendan Richards with Michael Ritter in 3rd position.
The official result of the Junior International final over 15 laps. Number 2, Brendan Richards first.
Down the hill, approaching the start-finish straight, the area of the circuit where the Group A cars come at about the same speed. We go across the start-finish line, make a fairly wide right-hand sweeping turn, a fairly easy turn, about 80 or 90 k's. We now leave the main motor race circuit and deviate onto the kart circuit. See those corner markers, must be very careful. Close on the back of Drew Price, the Bridgestone driver. Another sharp left back onto the motor racing circuit. Approaching Bitcher paved corner, must be very careful. Big concrete fence there, don't want to hit it. Clip the corner, up over the hill, we get up to about 130 k's. There's a big bump as you leave the bridge, hard on a cart, sharp right turn. Just saw me pat the carburettor, a little bit of safety. Down the hill, back on the start, finish straight for the end of the race.
And this is the man who took us on that exciting lap, 12 times Australian champion, John Pizarro. John, is karting all about sensation, or is it really quick?
It's real motorsport at an economy price.
Well, how much money would you have spent to get into the sport today?
A fraction as compared to any other form of motor racing. To go race in the clubman class, you can have a brand new outfit for about $2,000, which puts you a long way ahead of any other form of competitive motorsport.
I was watching with your steering wheel that you seem to have about a quarter of a turn to go from lock to lock.
Yes, it's not a whole lot, but then it's a small vehicle. You don't really want to turn too many times.
But with only 20 horsepower, is it really as fast as it seems to be? I mean, do you get the sensation of speed?
You most certainly do, especially if you make an error. It's quite a fast sport. On this circuit, we would get to speeds in excess of 130 k's on the bridge, which is quite fast enough if you happen to fall out.
John, you've been described as a veteran in the sport. How many years have you got left in you?
I think I've still got a little bit of time, thanks. I don't really worry about the age situation. I think it's whether you enjoy the sport. This sport takes in people of all walks of life, all ages, as you pointed out. It's great fun.
The Castrol Australian International Kart Grand Prix final. 30 laps around the 863-metre Oran Park Kart circuit. And what a quality field it is. The best from Australia, from New Zealand, from many countries in Europe and from Japan. Coming round now to the line, and they're away. Green light is late, but that's at the end of this corner, and so they're given the start. Alessandro Zamidi, number 5, leading away from Harm Schurman from Holland.
But it's Schurman in the lead. Schurman's taken over already.
fact, Schumann, I think, is back in third place. Looking at 47 there is Greg McGuinness. There's number 7, back in third.
So in the lead, yes, it's Steve Gustafsson who's taken over the lead from third position on the grid.
Great
Behind
start.
him now is Zanardi. And then comes Harm Schulman in third slot. So a huge start from Gustafsson.
Gustafsson, just 21 years old, Swedish and Scandinavian champion in class Formula Nordic, has a very busy time indeed at the moment and has lost first place, so that it's now the man who is on pole position, Zanardi, who really has had the running of this international field throughout the meeting. It's been a very busy weekend at Oran Park.
Of the 4 events contested so far, Zanardi has won 3 of them and come third in the other when his tyres started to go off. But it was a planned third place. He knew his tyres would start to go before he even went out in the race. But the officials insist that only 2 sets of tyres be used in this racing, and so he had no option but to race on Cook tyres. But boy, what a job he's doing. Only 19 years of age, regarded as probably the fastest sprint car racer in the world after the man who couldn't come this weekend,
Stefano Medina.
Yes, indeed, who's broken his leg in a Formula 3 accident in Italy.
In fact, Zanardi was the most successful 100cc competitor in the world last year. He won 1 round of the European Championships, then withdrew for the last round so that he would not be given a super license. He got a super license, he wouldn't be eligible for this class.
Huge racing for second place there, Will. Sorry to interrupt, but what a fantastic race between Stig Gustafsson in 10 and Kart 7, Harm Schulman. Schulman almost diving underneath.
In fact, contrary to what you might expect from a Swede, it's not Stig, but Steve Gustafsson. Rather like Stephen Johansson driving for Ferrari.
And then there in 4th position is the 4 times world champion, Mike Wilson. Had a rotten weekend when he just couldn't get the symbiosis right between his tyres and his chassis. Has moved to Bridgestone tyres from the Dunlop soft tyres that he brought out. He just hasn't been able to get the job right. But Wilson now is really going for it in 4th slot. 26 years of age, 4 times world champion, lost it in 1984 only when he broke down with just 1 lap to go whilst leading the world title. And his ambition in kart racing is to equal the 5 times world champion record.
That's held by Francois Goldstein. And indeed, Wilson very keen to do that. He's from Barnsley in Yorkshire, same place as Michael Parkinson. But he's been living in Italy for about 8 years, ever since he started kart racing. And a very, very successful driver indeed. Having a very difficult weekend, but like the professional that he is, persevering. And the trouble has been that the Dunlops he brought with him haven't been suited to our weather conditions and track surface. The Bridgestones he switched to have been giving him too much grip on a track which is very, very sticky. And in fact almost breaking up at that point where they loop off the bridge and come down Yamaha Hill, and also at the apex of the next corner. And so the engine's been bogging down, coming right off its power band, and he's been having a very difficult time.
The appearance of the 9 international drivers in this Castrol kart meeting today has really stirred the possum. No fewer than 26 drivers in this 32 capacity field were under the lap record in practice. And would you believe 1 second only separated the top 19. Mike Wilson still in 4th position. There's kart 7, Harm Schulman just in front of him.
Well, if you wonder how popular karting is, there were 53 karts entered for this race for a maximum 32 possible starters. And of course through heats and pre-finals, which set the grid positions, no more than that. For this one, they've come down to a very hot field of 32. They include people like 7 times Australian champion Drew Price, now a Toyota Works driver, did all the Group A Touring Car Championship last year and then the endurance races with John Smith. manufactures some 400 karts a year, and throughout Australia, some 7,000 people racing karts in a population of 15 million people, where in Italy, less than half that number race karts for a population obviously many times that of Australia. We're looking at the moment, number 7, Harm Schurman, Dutchman, late entry for the meeting, and has been going very well indeed.
And as we see Zanardi go through in the lead, 3.51 seconds separates first place Zanardi back to 4th position Mike Wilson on lap 20 with, on lap 10 with 20 to go.
A man we should be watching a little bit further back in the field but getting ever closer to the front is Monkholm. He was the fastest qualifier, Gert Monkholm. He's in kart number 9. He started in 12th grid position. A lap ago he was 6th. He's now 5th and flying towards the front and still with plenty of laps to threaten the leaders. Fastest qualifier, fastest lap so far has been 35.4.
And Wilson's stopping. Wilson's out of the kart race. Just saw a flash of him on the left there. There he goes. Oh, what a great shame.
Here's Monkholm. He was the fastest qualifier yesterday. Best time of 35.42, very similar to the time just done in the race by Zanardi, 35.4. This man's flying. Look at him, leaping and jolting the kart sideways.
And should you think that Dino should be an Italian kart, in fact it's made in Denmark by Finn Jorgensen, who is here today to watch the performance of his works karts, as indeed are a lot of the team managers and owners.
Well, first and second at the moment are DAP karts from Italy. Second, third and fourth are Dino karts. And DAP stands for D'Angelo Parilla. And he is the man that discovered Ayrton Senna, who of course now is just the sensation of Formula One car racing. And he was telling me about a friend of his who said, come and see this Brazilian. And he went and saw him race, brought him to Italy. He said, this guy really is something. In 6 laps at the very... Oh, my goodness! Monkholm, how quick is he as we see Wilson retired in 1 in the background. Senna in 6 laps at the very difficult Palmer circuit went faster than anybody had ever been before. Still stays with D'Angelo Parilla, who I think in some obscure way is related to Parilla engines.
Not obscure at all. His dad, in fact, owned Parilla engines.
That's right, sold it out some years ago.
And then once D'Angelo had been through university, he started his own rival company.
But Monkholm really is going well.
And Monkholm in 4th position is only 3.39 seconds behind the leader, and they're bunching. So that's 3rd place directly in front of him at the moment.
Look how he's clipping corners. Look how often he gets it up onto 2 wheels. Got the Dino kart flying, but they still are 3rd and 4th. It's still 2 DAPs in 1st and 2nd.
Steve Gutzhafen is in 3rd position. That's him in the blue. So Monkholm is really starting to apply the pressure. Oh, power to the ground is what it's all about, not power in the air.
Toyota Works driver Drew Price is 5th in number 22, and John Pizarro, 9 times Australian champion, compared with Drew Price's 7, is 6th on 43, and the 37, Russell Becker, is next, followed by number 3, and that's Russell Ingalls, who is current Australian champion. Looking there at Zanardi, leading at the moment, but I don't think that necessarily stay the same all through the 30 laps. Still, as you can see, heading by not a great margin, Harm Schurman, man from the Netherlands.
16 laps down, 14 remaining.
Which means it's a 25.9 kilometre race distance. They're covering this at around 100 kilometres an hour average.
36.07 seconds was the lap time done by Zanardi that time round.
And he's very neat indeed. Gets it up onto two wheels occasionally, very casually, reaches over to his right, chokes it just a little bit into corners. Europeans tend to run a little bit leaner in their mixture and use more of the choking. The Australians tend to run a little bit richer. And that is the safe way in terms of engine reliability, and therefore don't have to do as much manual choking of the engines generally. There he goes, choking it again. Down to the carburettor. An enormous amount of adjustment available in karts. You wouldn't think so to look at them, but there are spaces to move the wheels in and out, front or rear. There's little anti-roll bars, those ones just below the foot pedals, at the front and at the rear, to stiffen or loosen up the chassis to allow it to twist more or to stiffen it. There is a spacer to lengthen or shorten the exhaust, to tune that. There are even means of adjusting the carburettor as you're driving around, and some these days with a little digital instrument, electronic, in the middle of the steering wheel worth about $400, which gives them temperature at the spark plug and also engine revs. And as they get the temperature down, that's the exact best mixture to be running with. We look again at Harm Shawman.
In second position and seemingly unable to make any impression on Zanardi in the lead.
11 laps remain, 19 have been completed. The Hong Kong Kart Prix, a very important race on the international calendar. Believe it or not, at Le Mans, the home of the 24-hour endurance race for sports cars, there is also a 6-hour race for karts. It seems unbelievable. I don't quite know how they do that. But Zanardi, one of a number of drivers. The interesting thing is, you imagine perhaps that people are urging to get out of this class of motorsport into something else. But Zanardi is one who wants to stay, not just in karts, but in the 100cc class. He says the 135 World Championship class, not enough competitors, it's not enough fun, it's not hard enough. Where there might be 20 or 30 in the world final in the international 135 class, he might have 120 in this, and he said that's really tough work. I like that. Same thing for car racing. These guys can be competitive with about $2,000 odd, although the serious ones in Europe, the perhaps 5 top runners in the world, with the engines they'd go through, the constant changes of chassis and so on, they might spend as much as $40,000 a year. And the bad news on Gert Munkholm, number 9, is that he's out. He was in 4th place for a while, slipped then to 5th place. In fact, slipped right down, straight out of 4th place 3 laps ago.
But this challenge for the lead is starting to hot up. Zanardi and Shawman have opened a reasonable advantage on the rest of the field. And we're really starting to go for it. Zanardi still having the advantage of just that slight gap back to Shawman, which enables him to take the right lines into corners, not to block, to be able to be easy on his tyres. But look how much faster Shawman is up over the rise onto the Goodyear Bridge. But then how Zanardi blocks down here. And in one of the heats earlier today, I was watching Zanardi when he was on 4 tyres, and the man suddenly made his car 20 feet wide and was the hardest thing to pass I've ever seen. I would say that even if Shawman can get right up on him, that he's going to have the devil's own time getting through.
Still behind this pair, and in